What's up? My name is Raven. I am from Tracers for Life, and I am tired and at work, but I'm gonna try and do this style video one more go because I've done this video. I've tried recording this like 13 times probably, and I kind of want to just be over with it. Quick disclaimer: 1, this is not a response video to any particular video, and 2, this is not going to be the be-all end-all for style and parkour. I don't have that kind of authority, obviously. If enough people even end up watching it like that. I'm just here to try and provide a more objective view or outlook on what style is in parkour. Just because it seems like we can't really solidify an actual definition for what it is. We have a hard time solidifying an actual definition for parkour most of the time. This is me going to be, I'm gonna give you some definitions on what style is. I'm gonna give you how new styles are pretty much created. I'm also going to be going into a little bit of style history, and then go into things that make up styles. And then I'm gonna give you a way to categorize styles, because apparently that's a thing that we're trying to do now. We're trying to categorize styles in a certain way. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that too and how I feel about that. First, we're going to start with the definition of style. And I'm going to have a picture up here that I grabbed from Google, and I'll be using that definition throughout the whole video, so we're all on the same page. I'm not going to just be making up some stupid definition for what style is. The first definition is a manner of doing things, and then the second definition is a distinctive appearance typically determined by the principles of according to which something is designed. So with those two definitions, we already have a lot to work with parkour, because parkour, back when it was just starting out, everybody was just kind of figuring out what it was. It was very principle heavy. Specifically, be strong to be useful, and going from point A to point B. That was all over forums, it was all over videos, it was all up in the classes. So besides that, let's get into a little bit on now how styles are sort of created in parkour, and these are the two most obvious ones. So it shouldn't be surprising, but it is location and interpretation. It's that easy. That's how new styles are created all the time. To be more specific, let's say we're going to be using the be strong to be useful principle as this specific example for interpretation and location. Because location could also I keep rambling. It's fucking stupid. So if we're going to use be strong to be useful as an example for location and interpretation, let's take two different countries like Russia or Germany. Now when you look at these places, they have different types of architecture. They have a different overall atmosphere or vibe to it, if you will. And then the people there are also culturally impacted in a different way from their upbringing and such. So all of these things put together would mean that by their interpretation, they require this place requires a different sort of usefulness than Germany does, and then Germany would argue the same thing, more or less. And I think that's something that everybody can agree on. Russia requires a different sort of usefulness than Germany would, or the US requires a different kind of usefulness than Japan would, and that's how new styles are created. Even for an athlete, an athlete can go and gain a new style by going to a different location and then learning the new interpretations from new locations, so on and so forth. But that took a really long time for us to get to that point. Even in the first years of things like breakdancing or any flow art like gloving, the principles were the foundations of what that discipline was. So for breakdancing, even if you look at the breakdancing videos back in the 80s, I believe, was when it was first being a thing, you can see they're not doing anything stupid hard. They're just kind of breakdancing. They're doing their fundamental stuff. but like that was cool and crazy hard at the time, you know. And then now people are like doing like 10 spins on their heads with their hands not even touching the ground, and like they're doing these crazy tricks now, you know. And it all takes like time for that sort of thing to happen, and now we've had time for all these new things to happen, and that's just kind of how style grows. It starts from a uniform place, and then it grows into a place of self-expression, because parkour was back then really all about like the fundamentals of it all. It was really about like jumping, and people would argue all the time about parkour and freerunning being two different things, and if they were even supposed to be considered the same thing, stuff like that. And if you want two really good videos to watch about those two things, you can go to Matthias Mayer's channel. He has one called Parkour and Freerunning, and then ABCs to Poetry, where in both he kind of gives you his insight on the idea of self-expression and whether parkour and freerunning are kind of the same or if they're different at all, and gives you his like outlook on that. And I think his outlook is really interesting on those two particular topics. And I learned a lot from those videos, and I've taken a lot of notes from those videos. I don't want to spoil anything for you. I think he does a better job at talking about it than I would. So I would just recommend going and watching those videos. I'll have the links in the description for you. But we can see modern freerunning for the first time pretty much, not in something like Sebastian Foucault freerunning, but it's actually started with Oleg Vorslov and Out of Time, or at least that's like the one video that I can think of off the top of my head that I would deem as really early modern freerunning, where it's almost as if he completely disregards the principles that parkour has, or the concepts that those principles have, and then replaces them entirely with like dancing ones. So things like the footwork that he did and the spinning, and you know, the lack of point A to point B, and he's just kind of like going around and about and like kind of doing whatever he wants. There's no real sense of like efficiency, you know. He's not trying to get anywhere super fast, he's just having a good time, you know, all while still maintaining the movements and the actual spirit of parkour, which is how new styles are created, and how one generally is creative. And that video is super cool too. Link in the description for that too. If you haven't seen it yet, that is a classic video that everybody should watch. I mentioned the word concepts earlier, so now I'm going to talk about concepts. So what are they? Just to be, for parkour's sake and for like flow art's sake or whatever, I didn't really get into the idea of concepts until I learned more about things like loving and breakdancing, because they have YouTube videos just like libraries filled with like concept videos of people talking about the concepts that they really like in their discipline, and then explaining it and how they build on it, giving people exercises and like kind of moves to try on their own. And it makes me wonder why we don't do that sort of thing. I'd say I was sorely mistaken. Kyle Epic Mendoza actually used to make a bunch of concept videos about things you could do in and out of a palm spin. He made concept videos about how to feel your twisting, things like that. Wonderful tutorials that I grew up watching, that I learned a lot from, that I think you guys probably learn a lot from too. I'll leave the links in the description for that as well. Yeah, just wanted to give credit to somebody who deserved it. So this is going to be more or less an introduction into a series of several videos that I want to do over time about concepts. And concepts are basically characteristics that gives move that it's kind of hard to describe. It's kind of like a move characteristic. Things like threading, twisting, flipping, even footwork. All of these things are concepts. And like the thing about it is that parkour, we could have this never-ending list of concepts. And even if you think of one concept, you could think of another out of that concept. So concepts are really kind of tricky for me to talk about, just because we probably have so many that I've never thought of. It would be hard for me to fully describe what all kinds of concepts that we have. That would be something that over time I'd probably be able to give you a better answer. But right now I just don't have a really good one for you. I'll let you discover your own concepts, and I encourage you to like write them down or something, be like, these are like the characteristics that make up what I do. Here's how I can build on that, and then like go from there. Blah blah blah. And yeah, now to move on to the part of the video that most of you were probably waiting for me to do in the first place, which is how to categorize or subcategorize styles. For me, I think the reason why parkour is so cool to a lot of people, and then one of the reasons that like I really got into it, is because it really lets the individual express themselves how they want to. And then, you know, the way that their style looks is probably a representation of their inspirations, and then, you know, the things that they did in the past, in like past locations that they've been to, with their experience and whatnot. And I think there's like a certain beauty behind that. And then, you know, there's also the first definition that we went over earlier, a manner of doing things. Some people just have like a character to their movement, you know, like Pasha is famous for having that sort of thing. People walked around trying to imitate like this Pasha style movement, and I think that sort of thing was really beautiful at the time, just because that was something that everybody was able to recognize really quick without offending anybody for either pioneering the style or like really contributing to it, which I feel like is something that's kind of happening recently, and with certain people. They're kind of like just going around being like, oh, well, they have this style. It's like, yeah, but that's not what it's about. We're not trying to subcategorize styles into this bubble of people, and only these people have that style, or like you're only doing this style because of them. You know, you should leave room for other people to have some of that credit too. So I like to call these umbrella terms, where basically whatever falls under it could be whatever you want under it. So I think NAPC does a really good job of subcategorizing, or at least like separating their competition out into the styles of movement in parkour that athletes like to train. So things like skill, style, and speed. I think those are the three main styles of movement in parkour and freerunning that we mostly deal with. And then we could have some extra umbrella terms under each one. But generally speaking, you know, you could either be one of the three people in this category. You could either be a skill-based, speed, or style athlete, or you could be all three because you train all three. It doesn't really matter. The thing about parkour is that you don't have to just pick and choose anything. You can kind of do everything at once and then see what happens. So, you know, you don't even have to take my word fully for like what any of this means. You can come up with this fourth option, sixth option. You can maybe do a little bit more research than me and then try to subcategorize things better, but I really don't think that there's much of a use, and I think at the end of the day that would just like hurt somebody's feelings more than anything, you know. There's been fights over the years about people doing tutorials over moves that they've created, so let's just be more conscious about how we're trying to educate people about style and movement in general. You know, I'm not going to claim to be an expert. I've done a lot of research on my own, and I have, you know, done a lot of physical research on my own. I've had a lot of these conversations with athletes that I respect fully, that I trust, and that I believe have these different perspectives that I wouldn't have considered if it weren't for them. If you're going to take away anything from this video, it's that, you know, I'm giving you all of these vague answers because it's up to location and interpretation. Depending on where you are and who you talk to and what you're doing and like how you think about things, that's what your style is going to be. And your style doesn't have to be the same as anybody else's. You don't have to be trying mimicking anybody else's style. You can totally pull things from other people's styles, but also understand that like concepts cannot be styles either. Once you find a concept that you like and then you start playing around with it, you also have to understand that cannot be a style. Styles are built on several different concepts. We can see this from people like Egg and Josh and Trevor from the Bean crew, You know, you can see it from Didi, who just won Red Bull Motion in Italy recently. We can see it from any number of people. Nate Weston, who just cleverly trains both like massive skills and like massive moves. You know, Alfred Scott, even, who is known for his big tricks, is known also for being a super flowy dude and like being able to combine those big moves with different concepts as well. My personal favorites are people like Luke Albrecht and Desmond Taylor. I think those two are like some of the best in the country for sure. Eric Wolf is also a great example. Sean Reinhart, who has been in several of my videos, that dude's also pretty sick too. You know, like there's a bunch of people that do a really good job at combining concepts and they probably don't even know about it. Moral of the story, just do your own research and try to be as well informed as you can. If you don't feel sure about what you're saying, go and ask somebody for help. Go ask for some knowledge. Somebody's probably down to give it to you. Some people will do it if you give them money, but like, I don't know, I won't ask anybody to give me money for knowledge. I think that shit's super free. I've gotten most of my knowledge for free, so I'm happy to give anybody else my knowledge for free too. If you like this video, share it. If you didn't like the video, tell me why. I'm not going to be angry, just don't be a dick about it. I hope I helped a little bit. I hope I got some people thinking, and I hope I am starting more conversations. Have a beautiful day. You did
Fuck
it!
You. All right.
I just started recording.
Okay, that was a struggle.
Feeling alright, bud?
No.
We love you, Keegan.
I can't even lift my leg.
Can you do an intro for the 2020 movie?
Life is pain. End it now.